are watching the final 13-14 Ashes Polite Inquiries ever.
Aren't we doing one tomorrow?
Maybe.
Okay.
Jarrod, Kimber, George Dobell, member stand, new ugly stand.
It's me, you put it to me.
SCG. Nishant Mohammed says,
Nisho.
what the F is Flower still doing as the England coach?
Well, he's not plotting a masterful retention of the Ashes.
No, that's gone. That's gone.
It was quite interesting in the press conferences then that the Australian team and captain all talked about the environment in which they were playing in. Again, nothing to do with global warming. And they talked about what a nice, settled, happy dressing room they had, which gave them, comfortable I think the word they used was, which gave them the confidence to go out and play the game to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
The England team haven't said that.
Pitched up cricketers. So Mickey Arthur's master plan was right all along. Do you remember Mickey Arthur? South African coach, got abused a lot. Basically said, we probably can't win the Ashes in the UK, but let's find out a few things, come back and hit them with quicker pitches and fast bowlers and see how we go. But Darren Lehmann's won this Ashes, yeah? It's a weird world, that's all I'm saying. Andy and Brum. He can't bowl, bat, field or captain. What is the point of Cook?
You can't say he can't bat, he's just become...
Dilip Nen Malil says, should England have a new captain? Maybe Stokes, remember Graham Smith?
What are Stokes and Graham Smith? Oh, I see, you mean appointing someone very young. No.
They're the sort of responses you get when your team loses 5-0. Now, I don't think either of them are right.
You can't say Cook can't bat. He's just become the youngest man in history to 8,000 test runs. You can't say he can't bat. He's still probably the best guy to open the batting. Whether he's the best captain, make other suggestions to me. Who are you going to suggest?
Well, Stokes.
Well, Stokes is a silly suggestion, no disrespect.
It is.
But there's Ian Bell, the Stuart Broad. Could you recall Paul Collingwood, who's done a good job for Durham?
Imad Safar Iqbal.
Icky.
Is Scott Borthwick England's Michael Beer? Leo McGuinn. Is Scott Borthwick's 3 for 33 perhaps the most flattering set of figures in Test cricket? No, I've seen some shocking spells take 6 and 7 wickets, let's be honest.
You can tell when people have been asleep in England and they wake up and you get tweets saying England have found their new spinner at last because they're judging purely on the figures.
Vector Victoria. Once the furore has died down, realistically, where do England go from here?
Did you mean furore? Furore.
Where do England go from here, practically, what needs to be done?
That this has been the culmination of several years of mistakes. So I think that the England team that was very successful was formed in county cricket in years when it was tough and very competitive, and this team, which is not so good and not so successful, has been formed in years of county cricket which are weaker. The England management have been given far too much control, they've meddled with things that had nothing to do with them, and they've weakened the game at all levels. Mark
Johnston, where will these teams be in 1 year?
I'm not particularly optimistic for the next year of English cricket. I think that the India tour will be, when India tour England this next English summer, will be very, very difficult.
I don't think they can beat South Africa there, so that will bring them back to earth a little bit. Then they play India at home, which is amazing, even 10 times more interesting, because these are two teams that, you know, not that long ago looked, you know, at various times both looked terrible. L011609 says, how many teams are Australia better than who are above them on the ICC rankings? I wouldn't think any. Well, there's only 2 above them on the ICC rankings, I believe, as it stands today, and that would be Sri Lanka? No, South Africa and India. Well, South Africa are the best team on earth. I don't think Australia are better than them. And India played really well against South Africa, so we don't know. Mike Ellis says, has Rankin already played his last test?
Probably. It was wretched, wasn't it? I really like Boyd Rankin. He's a lot better than that, but I mean it was awful. We're talking about what you give him. I'm doing marks out of 10. What do you give Boyd Rankin? A hug was my answer.
Harsha says, when was the last time a team dubbed to win a series 5-0 actually lost it 5-0?
Has this ever happened before?
The whole 5-0 thing's a fairly new thing. It wasn't that long ago that people just didn't make stupid comments like that. So I assume, Harsha, you might have cottoned on to something here. This might be the first time in history that this has ever happened. Mark Johnston, as an Australian fan, this is the most satisfying moment. Does Jarrod feel the same? To be honest, this is nothing. I didn't feel anything. Perth, amazing.
We were delirious because it was 47 degrees.
Sanju Zacharias says,
Zach?
would George Dobell trade his brilliant writing for one of the English top order to be brilliant batting form? You probably need about 3 of them, but yeah.
That's a really good question, isn't it? Well, thank you for the compliment. That's really kind. But let's move on.
What he's saying is, no, he would rather be a good writer and write about the being ordinary. Daryl Kerrigan. Would the England side of 06-07 have beaten this side 5-0?
A pack of well-trained Labradors would beat this England side.
What is interesting is how the England 06-07 side would have gone against this Australian side. I mean, obviously Mitchell Johnson would have still caused them pain, but that bowling attack, had it not fallen apart like it did in 06-07, should have taken a lot more wickets.
They've got these central contracts, they've got all the coaches they want, they've got a massive support team, they've got development tours, they've got this huge staff, they've got everything they want, and yet they've got the same result. Adam
Gilbride says,
Gilby,
where will Australia's improvement come from if they want to go to number 1? Look, I would assume they'd need a top 6. They'll need a top 6 that scores in the first innings when the game is on, because they're not going to get out of it just because Brad hadn't or because England can't bat over and over again. To beat the best teams, you need a top 6.
I would say that we're probably not in the strongest playing era right now. So although their batting lineup isn't, you know, particularly strong, it certainly wouldn't compare it to the 84 West Indies side, who I still think are the best side I've seen. Then you would still say that they're good enough to beat most sides around. So they ideally could do with finding a batsman or 2.
Paul Frame.
Framo.
When the master plan all comes together and England win the World Cup, will all this be forgiven?
The World Cup is their next priority, that's a fact.
Well, it should be.
A lot of people will tell you Test cricket should be a priority.
Oh, I see what you're saying, they're playing India before then.
Yeah,
they really don't want to take their eye off the ball against India. Vikram Ramaskud. Think England can surprise us tomorrow? I just wanted to read that because he's
tomorrow.
I mean, it's not his fault. No one. I had respected Test cricketers next to me telling me it was going to go until tomorrow as the wickets were falling. Pratyush says, how much is the IPL responsible for England's 5-0 defeat?
What? Well, actually, okay.
Wait a minute.
Mitchell Johnson played in the IPL and rediscovered some.
See, damn it.
No.
No. Lav Parakin says, would Ian Bell have scored more runs if he spent less time reading Russian poetry?
He's had a really poor series. Very, very disappointing. In these last 2 tests, he's played some awful shots. Basically, since he started talking to us. Luke Webster says, hello.
Might this be the last ever Polite Inquiries, or will you do it for another series too? We are coming back, yes. Whether it's me and George, or George and someone else, or me and someone else, whatever, there will be more Polite Inquiries, because this has been...
I'll do it with someone else.
I'm not sure
we don't have an open relationship, do we?
Sambit Bal.
Sambit.
Who was the real star of Polite Inquiries?
Teamwork.
We'll see you some other time.
Cheers, it's been fun.